Happening now on Grid Tonight. Reports have emerged that Saudi Arabia inquired about buying Formula One. How did a comment on social media from the FIA President lead to rising tensions between Formula One and the FIA? More from Saudi Arabia. It's the second Formula E race weekend of 2023. Which drivers can rise above the rest in the two Diriyah E-Prix races coming up in the days ahead? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, and with me is Joshua Burch. We definitely encourage everyone out there to comment in the chat room and ask any questions below. See, we already have Demas here. He's really excited for tonight's show. With that said, we're not going to keep you waiting, Demas and everyone else. So, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening. Also, we have a comment from Adam Limmeries.
Yes, good evening, Josh and Kobe. Good evening, Adam. Good evening, Dismas as well, watching along. Beyond ready for the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona to get going. That kicks off on Saturday. But we've had some very interesting news, which is turning the Formula One world upside down. Last week, Bloomberg News reported that Saudi Arabia explored a bid to buy Formula One from Liberty Media for over $20 billion US. However, Liberty Media wasn't willing to sell F1 to the Saudis, who have been heavily interested and investing in the sports scene, and many have accused them of sports washing to improve its reputation of being a country that doesn't value human rights. Now, despite getting turned down, Saudi Arabia remains interested in buying Formula One. In recent years, they've continued to make significant investments in sports, such as buying English Premier League teams. That's in Newcastle United FC, of course, forming the LIV Golf Tour as well, plus boxing events, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah, the Formula E Diriyah E-Prix that's on this weekend as well, and also the Dakar Rally, photo there courtesy of the FIA as well. Now, Kobe, coming to you, how unsettling is it to hear that Saudi Arabia's wealth made an attempted buyout of Formula One?
Oh, Josh, it is very unsettling to hear this happening. And you know, everybody who's been with Grid Network the past year or two, you all know we've done many shows talking about Formula One and Saudi Arabia, many times also Qatar as well, in regards to human rights violations that those countries have been a part of. And hearing that Saudi Arabia is trying to buy Formula One, whenever a racing series organization is up for sale, you definitely want to leave it in good hands. And I really fear that if Formula One gets in the hands of Saudi Arabia, that a lot of the great progress they made over the years will go bye-bye very, very, very quickly. We're going to continue to follow this story in the weeks and months ahead, because I have a feeling this situation with Saudi Arabia, Formula One, Liberty Media, it is definitely far from over.
Oh, you're 100% right there, Kobe, as well. This is going to brew throughout the entire year as well. We're talking about it when the F1 testing starts as well. Hi, Ed. Just to let you know, Ed, I just watched the FEZ show as well. Cracking work, guys. And yes, we are hurtling towards 30. It's a bit scary. Casey Campbell. Hi, Casey, who I'll be on a podcast with hopefully shortly as well, says, I'm ready for the Rolex 24 and the Grid Live Rolex 24 pre-race show as well. It's going to be a cracker. I don't think I'm doing the commentary this year, sadly, as well, but certainly going to be watching the race, and I'll hop on with the pre- and post-race show after I'm done with the Formula E shows as well. But coming back to the FIA topic as well with Saudi Arabia, as I know Ed's going to have a few opinionated topics on this one, so get commenting, Ed, in that chat room. This entire situation has created some drama and definitely the tension rising between Formula One and the FIA, especially involving the FIA President, Mohammed bin Sulayem. Now, this all was because of tweets put out a few days ago that I covered on a TikTok, and we've got them here for you as well. And he still hasn't deleted them, which is more entertaining. Mohammed bin Sulayem stated, as the custodians of motorsport, the FIA, and as a non-profit organization, is cautious about alleged inflated price tags of $20 billion being put out on F1. Any potential buyer is advised to apply common sense, consider the greater good of the sport and come with a clear, sustainable plan, not just a load of money. It is our duty to consider what the future impact will be for promoters in terms of increased hosting fees and other commercial costs, and any adverse impact that it could have on fans. Now, according to Sky News, F1's legal team wrote a letter accusing Sulayem's tweets of interfering with their commercial rights in an unacceptable way in reference to the part of the alleged inflated price tag of $20 billion US. The FIA was warned that Formula One has the exclusive right to exploit the commercial rights in the FIA Formula One World Championship under a 100-year deal. Be sure to check the video description to both articles about this situation. Now, Sky News did put this segment out over about what that open letter that I know was sent not only just to the FIA, but to all of the 10 Formula One teams and all sponsor holders as well. It added, this is the now reading from the statement, Mr. Ben Sulayem had overstepped the boundaries of the FIA's remit, saying that any individual or organization commenting on the value of a listed entity or its subsidiaries, especially claiming or implying possession of insider knowledge while doing so, risks causing sustainable damage to the shareholders and investors of that entity, not to mention potential exposure to serious regulatory consequences. Basically, the FIA are liable, as you can see at the bottom, to the degree that these comments damage the value of Liberty Media Corporation. The FIA may be liable as a result. Also, I do know that there might not have been as much truth to this as was originally stated, because Formula One at times do tend to put out a higher price tag. In fact, if you look at the stats for Formula One, which is the FWOK on the stock market, it rose from, I think, $59 to $64 as well, a rise of around about 7%, before slowly dropping off at the end of the day after it was announced about Formula One now being worth $20 billion. So there's still a lot more coming into that fact. It very much is a developing story that we're going to keep a cross of over the coming weeks. We'll find out more, presumably at testing. But Kobe, before I bring you in, actually, Ed's just said in the chat, I think Ben Sulayem has kind of waded in publicity here, but his actual comment had a surprising amount of common sense. Just wish his attitude to freedom of expression was similar. I completely agree with you there as well. The FIA, that was a whole different situation with FIA sort of banning the use of free speech in many respects about drivers being able to protest. That came out this week as well. But I do agree with Ed there as well, that he sort of did have a point with what he was making, but it wasn't his place to say it. So, Kobe, did Sulayem overstep his boundary by making a response on social media? And does it make you nervous that tensions between F1 and the FIA are getting worse?
And before I answer your question, Josh, I just wanted to say, you remember a few weeks ago we were doing a Grid Tonight episode on the banning of political statements, and there the FIA president is right there, breaking his own rules, making political statements. They're on Twitter. So obviously the hypocrisy there is really frustrating. As they say, rules for thee, but not for me. So I guess that's the rules that Mohammed bin Sulayem is living by right now. But getting back to the question you asked, obviously you definitely don't want to be, saying that type of stuff on social media of all places, and watching TV here in America. You see politicians all the time when they're asked questions by the reporters, they always say, I don't negotiate anything in public. And I think this applies in this situation as well. This is just stuff you don't need to do when you're the leader of a powerful organization like the FIA. But I also agree with what Ed said as well, that a lot of what he said made a lot of common sense. That if someone's interested in buying Formula One, you need to make sure that they're going to buy it with the great intentions of the sport to make sure that Formula One will survive many years into the future. I also agree with this comment, that you just don't need to come with a load of money, because with the value, some of the values we've seen that Saudi Arabia has, what we consider good morally, and is the complete opposite of what they consider good. So that's really worrisome to me in terms of Formula One's future if Saudi Arabia is going to buy it out. As I've been saying, all of the good progress that Formula One has made over time, if the Saudis buy it, I wonder if all of that good progress will eventually go away. It's certainly a really nerve-wracking time. I'm really glad that Liberty Media stood up for themselves and decided not to sell it for now. And I'm saying for now with quotes, because we have no idea what's going to happen in the weeks and months ahead. And obviously the tensions between Formula One and FIA, obviously not a good thing at all. Hopefully over time that we'll see some of those tensions die down, and looking at the future of Formula One. If Formula One is sold, I hope it's sold to someone who's actually going to care about keeping Formula One on the rise. It would be such a shame if Formula One goes from if it goes from a direction of being inclusive to exclusive.
Absolutely, and this is actually quite a shocking thing coming from Mohammed Ben Sulayem, considering he is one of the top representatives of the Arabian culture in the FIA as well. He's the head of it, and he was born, of course, in Dubai. So it's a really shocking turn of events that he himself is coming out and saying about this as well. So it's just, we think it's heading for another war. If those of you who don't remember, back in the 80s and early 90s, the FIA, FISA as it was back then, and FOM as it was FOCA back then as well, had a battle because Bernie Ecclestone, who represented FOCA, wanted things done his way, whereas the head of the FIA at the time, which was FISCA, Jean-Marie Ballest as well, was very much sort of a mafia boss and sort of ran Formula One with an iron fist. Thought Bernie Ecclestone was controversial. Jean-Marie Ballest makes Bernie Ecclestone looks like a cuddly grandfather. So let's just see where tensions go. I do know that when I was looking into the articles as well, Mohammed Ben Sulayem says he has a wonderful working relationship with Stefano Domenicali, who is the boss at FOM as well. He is the sporting director, so we'll just have to wait and see what goes on. We'll surely hear for more of this as it develops as well. Now, since we've just completed our hot topic as the top story this week, we're going to do a quick preview of the upcoming Formula E doubleheader race weekend in Saudi Arabia, the Diriyah E-Prix. And Ed has put in as well, one thing is for sure, the money from Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, directly controlled by the Saudi crowned prince, isn't going anywhere anytime soon. You're right as well. And also, don't forget that we know for a fact that Saudi Arabia will host the season opener of the FIA Formula One World Championship in 2024. That looks to be on March the 4th as well, a week before Ramadan starts as well. That was announced by the Victoria government when they announced their deal had increased from 2035 to 2037 for the Australian Grand Prix at Albert Park. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. So Saudi Arabia will host the season opener. It looks like it could be getting more and more in that control. But now let's look ahead to the Formula E weekend that kicks off tomorrow with first practice as well. The Riyadh street circuit in Diriyah, 21 corners, 1.5 miles long, and it's around about 2.5 kilometers as well. Quick clusters, left and right hand turns making up the two track sections. Turns 2, 3, 4, turns 8, 9, 10, and turns 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all referred to as the bobsleigh section as well. It can be quite difficult to overtake here as well. Out of the past 7 races here, 4 have been won from the front row, 3 times from pole position, and once from second place. In 2019, Sam Bird won from 5th place on the starting grid. That's the furthest back any winner has come from this track as well. Photo courtesy of Formula E. Yes, 7 races, of course, since the 2018-19 season started it off. It's been a double header across it as well. And Kobe, could that change with this generation of cars in terms of starting further back positions as well? Or do you anticipate the winner coming from the first 2 rows once again?
Well, obviously, when you have a major rules change like we've seen this year in Formula E, it always makes things a little bit more unpredictable. But given the history of the Riyadh street circuit in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia, I really think that this will probably end up being just like all the other past races on this circuit, probably going to be a track position race. And so that means qualifying is going to be really, really important. So I anticipate that the winner of both races will probably come from the first two rows or even the third row. Who really knows?
It is a bit of a lottery here in Diriyah as well with the night races. They've always been more chaotic than when it was a day race for a couple of years. Now, speaking of Sam Bird, he's the only driver to win more than once here. He has 2 race victories in Saudi Arabia. Antonio Felix da Costa and Eduardo Mortada are the only other past winners racing this weekend. In the season opening Mexico City E-Prix, Mortara crashed out and Bird retired from the race with a mechanical failure of having a drive shaft issue. And Ed says only 4 more years before the Formula E/Saudi deal runs out. I'm counting down the days. And Ed Hunter's not with us this weekend on the grid shows or on the watch-along commentary. Dimas says Formula E is back in Diriyah as second round and third round this year after 4 seasons. Formula E in Diriyah as season opener. Yep, it's the first time it's not the season opener since it joined the calendar in the 2018-19 season 5 opener as well, I think. But Kobe, coming back to you as Adam agrees with you here, which driver do you see bouncing back this weekend after a disappointing race in Mexico, Mortara or Bird? And if they fail to score points in Saudi Arabia, should they be concerned about their championship hopes this season?
Well, for the driver who I think is probably has the greatest chance of bouncing back from a disappointing season opener in Mexico City, I think I have to go with Eduardo Mortar for now. I know the jury's still out on Sam Bird trying to redeem himself. I know over the past year or so, a lot of people have been giving Sam Bird a hard time because he hasn't showed the same form that he's shown in previous Formula E season. I know in the preseason we even questioned if Sam Bird would potentially be able to keep his seat with Jaguar beyond this season if he doesn't get back to the Sam Bird of old in Formula E. But right now I have to go with Eduardo Mortar. And if both of those drivers or one of those drivers end up not scoring any points in Saudi Arabia in either race, I'm not going to say you hit the panic button, but I would rather be ahead than trying to play catch up. Even during the early part of the season, it's not like the NASCAR Cup Series, where you could really have a really, really bad first 10 races of the year and then win race number 11 and you're automatically in the playoffs and you're good. I know Ross Chastain, who made it all the way to the championship 4 at Phoenix, he had a really terrible start to the season. I believe he was like out of the top 30 in points and then ended up finishing in the top 4 in the NASCAR Cup Series standings. So Formula E doesn't have the luxury of a winning year in and I think it'd be super important for both Eduardo Mortar and Sam Bird to score championship points in Saudi Arabia. Otherwise, they're going to start to feel some pressure as others get ahead while they stay behind.
Now, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to have a little rapid fire here, Kobe. I've got a stopwatch, so in 1 minute or less, please answer the following questions. Ready? I'll start it after I finish the first question just to make it a bit fair for you. Okay. Is Mexico City E-Prix race winner Jake Dennis a contender or pretender entering this weekend? Go.
I think Jake Dennis is definitely going to be a contender, not just this weekend. I think he's also going to be a contender throughout the season. Avalanche Andretti has done a really great job developing their car at the beginning of the season. And with the Porsche powertrain, the Porsche power is definitely helping them out a lot. And I think Jake Dennis is someone we really need to take seriously as a weekly contender who could potentially be a threat for this year's Formula E World Championship.
Will Pascal Wehrlein finish on the podium in either of the 2 races?
Well, coming off Mexico City, Pascal Wehrlein, seems like Mexico is that one track on the schedule that he's really, really, really good at. And then sometimes we see Wehrlein run really well, and then sometimes it just doesn't go his way. But I'm actually going to predict that we may see him on the podium in one race, but not the other.
Now, do you think Lucas Di Grassi and Mahindra will be the real deal this season, or was the podium in Mexico ending up being the occasional good result?
Oh, well, that's a really tough question there. I think if Mahindra is going to have any great success this season, they have the right driver there in Lucas Di Grassi. He's one of those drivers who can come in. You can build a program around him, and he'll always lead the program better than what he found. I think Mahindra will have a solid season with Lucas Di Grassi behind the wheel. Will Di Grassi and Mahindra be able to compete for their championship throughout the season? I can't really answer that right now because it's still a little too early in the season.
Which McLaren driver will have the better weekend, Jake Hughes or Rene Rast?
Based on what we've seen in the preseason, the first race of the year, I think we definitely have to go with Jake Hughes. Jake Hughes has been really impressive so far, and I expect him to keep the good times rolling. I know in these in-team battles, Rene Rast will want to beat Jake Dennis coming up. So if Jake Hughes keeps his momentum going, keep having all these good results, Rene Rast is really going to start feeling the pressure that he needs to go out there and outperform Jake Hughes.
Run about 2 minutes 5. I tell you what, Joe wrote that part of the script. Could have given us a little bit more time to get through, but under 2 minutes, I'd like that as well. Well done, Kobe, on that one. I'll reset that ready for your segment later so we can time. It was 11 minutes last week as well. That was a mega mammoth one you did. Ed says as well, there's also the new emergency brakes being added to the cars in this time, in time for this weekend. Jaguar have had the most reliability issues in testing and in Mexico. You're right. Yeah, the Jaguar brakes have been shocking as well. Also, the Envisions of Sebastian Buemi, we knew were having issues in testing, and they cropped up in Mexico. We suspect that Mortara had a rear brake failure, and that's what caused him to crash as well. So, Kobe, we can't really so we can't really say, oh, we don't need the emergency brake. These are 200 miles an hour electric cars with regen batteries harvesting the braking energy. If something goes wrong and they go bang, we need a backup. So I think it's good to sort of add a handbrake to the cars.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it last year at Saudi Arabia, the year before? Didn't the Formula E car go upside down, flying in the air? Year before.
Alex Lynn went up and down. Yeah. Yeah, that was due to a brake problem as well, because he hit the back of another car, but couldn't stop in time to get to stop the defending as well. And I think Gunther had an accident at the same time as well, and he was on the inside. So definitely a good idea to add the emergency brakes to stop some of these horrendous accidents happening as well. Now, time for Pick a Winner. And because it's a weird weekend at the moment as well, with Formula E racing on Friday and then Saturday, we haven't got time to do this in our normal pre-race show. So at the moment, as you can see, as Ed Hunter comments on, Mortara also had a huge crash in free practice. I had to miss the second race. That was last year. You're right, Ed. Yeah, with a brake failure as well. So, Kobe, you were spot on there too. And Ed mentions it. Ed's currently joint with Alex at the top of our Pick a Winner board. Matt B, Matt W, Kobe, myself, and Amber JJ all got on the board last weekend after the Rally Monte Carlo. So, Kobe, coming to you, who is your Pick a Winner for race 1 and race 2 in Diriyah to take the lead away from Ed?
Oh, Josh, it's going to be a lot more challenging to get Pick a Winner right, since it's only Wednesday, so we're not going to be able to do this right before qualifying like we usually, right after qualifying like we usually do. So for race 1, I'm going to go out on a limb, say Stoffel Van Dorn takes that one, and then the driver I just talked about a little while ago in race 2, give me Jake Dennis to go get another win.
I'll agree with you with Jake Dennis. I think he'll take the second race. I think race 1 will go to Lucas Di Grassi. So I think Di Grassi will win race 1 and Dennis will win race 2 as well. Ed says, well, things can only go downhill from here for me. Bobsleigh run. I don't know why, but I've got a feeling someone's trying to get into the commentary box as well. So that's a bit alarming because the door's locked, but I can hear things at the sound of my ears. And not very good because there's been a couple of breakings recently as well. So if anyone's outside that commentary box, we're live on air to loads of people. So you don't want to interfere with us. Thank you very much. So go away. I've got a broom. Look at this. I've got a broom. I'll do so. I was a fencing champion, you know. Yes, I've got a trophy and all, so I'll easily do some damage as well. And never fear, I've got a mop. Anyway, right, coming in. Adam says race 1, Jake Hughes. Race 2, Jake Dennis as well. So Adam's gone for the Jake double, and hopefully so. We're seeing Adam's not actually on the board yet, so neither is actually Joe. So they're having a shocking start to the weekend as well. That's brilliant to see. Okay, so there's chance for me and Kobe to get onto that Pick a Winner board as well as the Formula E race will kick off. Just to let you know, practice 1 is tomorrow on Thursday. Qualifying And the race 1 is on Friday. Don't forget that, on Friday. And then the final race of the weekend is on Saturday as well. You all get Sunday off as well. Ed says, my guess is Nick Cassidy for race 1 and Pascal Wehrlein for race 2. And for the Daytona, the 24 hours, the Acura 60, the pole sitter. That's a good one. I forgot about that, but I've gone back. Ben says Wehrlein for race 1, Degrassi race 2, and Wayne Taylor Racing number 10 in the Rolex Daytona 24. Do we get class wins for that too, Kobe, as well? Because there's 3 classes, so we could technically have a little bit of a play with that one. Or is there 2 classes at Daytona this year?
I know we have 5 classes at Daytona this year, but we only do pick a winner for the overall race winner in the 5 classes. Is going to be GTP, LMP2, LMP3, GTD Pro, and then the regular GTD class. But we feel like it's a lot easier to just pick the overall winner, pick one of the GTP cars, or it's maybe somebody will press their luck and pick an LMP2, because these GTP cars, they're having some reliability issues with the new hybrid electronic system. And so we could see quite a few of them drop out of the race. And that's why I have a feeling we could potentially see an LMP2 car finish on the podium. Ooh. I don't know if they'll get the overall win, but who knows? Because yes, these manufacturers have done a lot of testing with these new LMDH cars, but it's still not enough yet. There's still a lot of teething issues for them to figure out. And be sure to join us Saturday at noon Eastern for our special Grid Live Rolex 24 pre-race show when we tell you who we think is going to win the Rolex 24 overall.
It's going to be a great weekend of action as well. Now, for our next segment, here's Matt White from Grid History, and he's included for us as well a recap of the World Rally Championship from the Rally Monte Carlo.
Hello everybody, Matt White here. It's that time of the week again where we take you around the world of motorsport and bring you some updates for the show. And we'll start with the Endurance Performance Index. The Grid EPI had its second scoring race at the weekend just gone. The second round of the 24H series after the Dubai 24 hours, which kicked off our scoring in the Grid EPI last week. They had a 6-hour race on Saturday at Abu Dhabi Yas Marina, the Grand Prix circuit there, for their second round. And it was won by Alex Malikin, Joel Strum and Harry King. So they have jumped up to the top of the Grid EPI standings. We'll give you the full top 10 when we get to Easter. That is the first reveal of the Grid EPI for 2023. We've got the big one coming up this weekend, a couple of big weeks in Grid EPI land, with the Rolex 24 at Daytona this weekend and the Bathurst 12-hour the weekend after. Plenty of coverage of the Rolex 24 across the Grid network coming up this weekend. Of course, race kicks off on Saturday evening UK time, Saturday afternoon stateside. Also at the weekend we had the first round of the World Rally Championship, the traditional curtain raiser for the year, above the foothills of Monte Carlo, and it was won in a record style by Sébastien Ogier, his 9th WRC win on the Monte Carlo rally. He beat teammate and world champion Kalle Rovanperä, finishing second, and Thierry Neuville third for Hyundai. Ogier only doing a part season this season. He's missing Sweden, which is the next round of WRC, which comes up in 3 weeks' time. So Ogier won't be there for Sweden. So Rovanperä picking up the second place and the power stage points, importantly as well. He's the de facto championship leader, heading to Sweden in a couple of weeks' time ahead of Neuville. And Oyt Tanak getting his first run for Ford at the weekend. He finished 4th for them in the new run in the Puma for him. Big controversy though in WRC2 at the end of the rally. After the rally had finished, Nikolai Gryzin thought he'd won the category by coming 9th overall, but then was appealed against by the man who finished second, Johan Russell. He appealed that Gryzin had cut a corner on a stage on Saturday and that had gained him time. Well, that appeal was found to be correct, and the positions were swapped. A time penalty was given to Gryzin, and that meant Johan Russell won WRC2. So big stories there for both of them. I say Ogier not in Sweden. He'll be back from Mexico. He has confirmed this week that he'll be in Central America in March for round 3 of the championship, but will miss the round in Sweden. We'll bring you more WRC news for Sweden in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll bring you the Rolex 24 Grid EPI update as well on next week's Grid Tonight, when it is the first big high-scoring points race of the year. We can't wait for it. And then Bathurst the week after. A great couple of weeks of endurance racing. Looking forward to see how all these GTP cars go on the high banks of Daytona at the weekend, and will they all get to the finish? Lots of mechanical potential worries for all the teams at the weekend. Could we see an LMP2 car come through and win the race? That is a possibility. We'll find out over the weekend. Enjoy the coverage here on the Grid Network and IMSA TV and on NBC if you're watching in the States. And we'll be back to give you the winners and results from that on this segment and the Grid Tonight show next week.
Thanks, Matt. And before I begin my next segment, I'm going to catch up on a few comments in the chat room. Adam Limber said his pick winner for the Rolex 24 is the number 16 Penske Porsche. And everybody who's sharing their pick winners for the Rolex 24 now, please be sure to come back on Saturday at noon Eastern for our special IMSA Rolex 24 at Daytona pre-race show. And got another comment here from Ed saying he can't believe that he picked Ogier to win Atlanta. He didn't even remember if he was doing Monte Carlo or not. That you just got super lucky there. And Ed, be sure to try to participate and pick a winner every week. Just if you have to pick a name out of a hat, go do it, because sometimes you may end up being very, very lucky. And next, here's some more motorsports news from around the world. Tricon Garage, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series team, formerly known as David Gilliland Racing, announced a new driver to its lineup. 16-year-old William Sawalich will compete in 6 truck races this season, driving a number 1 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. Sawalich will compete at Martinsville, Mid-Ohio, Richmond, IRP, the Milwaukee Mile, and the Bristol Night Race. It was previously announced that Sawalich would run 20 ARCA Menard Series races with Joe Gibbs Racing, which includes a championship campaign in ARCA East. Sawalich has been making a major name for himself in short track racing, winning 6 races in the Cars Tour Pro late model division last year, 3 late model stock wins, and 2 Southern Super Series wins, among other great successes in his young career. Graphic courtesy of Tricon Garage. With App Motorsport Formula E driver Robin Frein suffering fractures to his left hand in the season opening Mexico City E-Prix, the team has chosen Kelvin van der Linde to replace him as the 26-year-old South African makes his Formula E debut this weekend in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. After Frein suffered that hand injury, he had surgery on it the same year in Mexico. The team has given him all the time he needs to fully recover from the injury. As for van der Linde, it was a no-brainer to have him step into the race seat from the reserve driver role. He's been spending many hours working with App Motorsport on data analysis and in the simulator. Van der Linde said competing in Formula E is a dream of his, but he wishes his debut in the electric racing series could have happened under different circumstances. Photo courtesy of App Motorsport. Former NASCAR Cup Series driver Casey Kane will return for a second full season of competition in the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. Kane said he's excited to go full-time sprint car racing again, and he feels really good as he continues his quest to win his first World of Outlaws sprint car race. Been a 5-time championship winning owner, Kane is determined to win in his own equipment at Casey Kane Racing. Getting the first World of Outlaws sprint car win for Kane is at the top of his bucket list. He really wants to win because it's been a long time since he felt the joy of taking home the checkered flag. Graphic courtesy of the World of Outlaws. And staying on the same subject, 3-time Rep Cup Supercars champion Shane Van Gisbergen recently won his first sprint car race in New Zealand before returning to Australia to begin preparing for the 2023 Supercars season. Graphic courtesy of Supercars. Championship winning crew chief Todd Gordon is coming out of retirement to serve as the crew chief of the number 84 Legacy Motor Club Chevrolet Camaro, teaming up with 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson. Gordon spent most of his career as Joey Logano's crew chief. The pair won 21 races together in the 2018 Cup title. Later on, Gordon was paired with Ryan Blaney during his final 2 years as a full-time crew chief. At the end of his time at Team Penske, he helped his drivers win a total of 25 races, 18 poles, 123 top 5s, and 199 top 10s. Gordon said after speaking with Johnson, they both agreed that they missed the competition of NASCAR, but not the weekly grind of the full-time schedule when they're on the road almost every single week throughout the year. Graphic courtesy of Legacy Motor Club. Since Jake Garcia won't be old enough to compete in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season opener at Daytona, McAnally Hilgeman Racing has turned to a NASCAR Cup Series champion to fill in at the World Center of Racing. Chase Elliott will drive the number 35 Gate Hydraulics Napa Auto Care Chevrolet Silverado. It'll be the first time Elliott has raced a truck at Daytona or on a super speedway in general in a truck. With team owner Bill McAnally having a long-term relationship with Napa, also Elliott's longtime primary sponsor on his Cup car, it made sense for these two to team up at Daytona. And another cool connection, Elliott and Garcia both came up on the stock car racing ladder through Ricky Turner's Georgia-based asphalt late model program. Graphic courtesy of McAnally Hilgeman Racing.
And taking a look as well. By the way, 3 minutes 45. Well done, Kobe, there. Absolutely fantastic as well. In fact, caught me off guard how quick you were. I was just looking at the back of the box as well. Okay, one more thing to add quickly as well. For those of you who watch the Sky Sports F1 coverage around the world, that includes the United States of America as well. It's been announced today. The broadcast team. Now, we've had Johnny Herbert that has announced that he's leaving Sky Sports F1, as well as Paul de Resta as well. And like them, don't like them as well. Either way, they were great pundits and they will be missed on the broadcast tour this season. Their full team, which I have for you as well. Are you ready for this? And it's not going to be that great as what Kobe's had, but I've just literally had the text message through that this is confirmed. I have to put on TikTok. The full lineup for Sky's coverage this year, which is also simulcast on ESPN over in the States, is Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg, Naomi Schiff, Martin Brundle, Damon Hill, Karun Chanok, Anthony Davidson, Natalie Pinkham, Ted Kravitz, Danica Patrick, Simon Lazenby, David Croft, and Rachel Brooks. And I think as well that Danica Patrick is joining more broadcast races this year as well. Now, Ben says quickly, really not sure why they couldn't just bring Derek back for one race. He helped build that program. It's not like he's got anything major lined up yet. Kobe?
Yeah, Ben's talking about the last story I talked about with McAnally, Hilgeman Racing. Derek Krause has been with Bill McAnally for a very, very long time, dating back to their days of working together in the ARCA Menard Series West Division. And after building up that program to being outside playoff contenders and having some really good runs every now and then, a lot of us were shocked when they announced that Derek Krause will no longer be driving for Bill McAnally Racing. They're replacing with Christian Eckes. And as of right now, we don't even know if Derek Krause is going to have a seat for Daytona in just a few weeks' time, or if he's going to be able to find anything in 2023. So it was just, really surprising for a lot of us, since we thought Bill McAnally and Derek Krause would continue working together for a really long time. And Edward Hunter says, great tonight. We need to finish the show now before Josh's shed is invaded by badgers.
I've got an umbrella like John Steed as well for the Avengers. I can take them on. It's fine. Anyway, going into it as well. I don't know what it is. I think it might be like birds or something. Do birds fly at night as well? That sounds like a code from some sort of. It wasn't that one of the Enigma machines as well, like the eagle flies at night or something or other. Either way, I don't know what's happening, but I've just put my thing down. I've put my body down on the floor and I feel like I'm disintegrating the floor. So something's going wrong here tonight. Grid Tonight, always a chaotic show as well. But taking a look at our upcoming schedule as well, and hopefully no invaders. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race at noon Eastern. That's previewing the big one, the 2023 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season opener, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Everyone is excited for the debut of the GTP class with the new LMDH prototypes as well. I certainly am. It's going to be exciting from what I've been hearing from Kobe in the past couple of months as well. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll recap both the Rolex 24 and the entire Formula E race weekends in Saudi Arabia. And Ed's pointed out the core crows at midnight, Josh. Thank you very much. I'm just going to start banging the roof ahead of me, actually, as well. Go away. Anything up there? No, good. Okay, good. I feel like one of those old women that you see in cartoons banging up on the floor, but it's a one-story building. There's nothing above me. Anyway, okay. Adam says as well, Zane Goddard will team up with Craig Loudons to run the Sandown 500 and Bathurst 1000 in the Repco Supercars Championship. Fantastic. We're getting all the information as well. The Crow calls at midnight. I was going to say, Ed, what you're too busy after you've done all the FEZ shows as well. Okay, if this hasn't made you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, I don't know what will as well, because it's 23:41 my time and all hell is breaking loose. So please do subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Do you know the number one is back in MotoGP? Yes, I'll cover that quickly as well. Pepe Bagnaia for Ducati has announced that he will run the number one in MotoGP. The first time it's been running around about 5 or 6 years, because of course Marc Marquez never took it. So it's been, I think, the first time since 2012. I believe Casey Stoner was the last one to run it as well, back on the Repsol Honda days. So it's going to be great to see the number one back for the first time in over a decade, since Marc Marquez never ran it, and neither did Lorenzo and Marquez or Quartararo or anything like that. So it's all good news as well. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us get to 500 subscribers before the Daytona 500. Got about a month left for that as well. Don't forget also to hit the bell icon to get all the notifications for when we're live and when we upload videos as well. And follow all of our social medias platforms and visit gridranking.com for more access as well. And also take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin as well in investing each month in the Grid Network. Welcome to our newest Patreon supporter, David. We're excited to have you join the amazing group of people who have kept us on the air for the past couple of seasons. Once we hit $500 per month as well, we will begin sending members of our team to the track more consistently for live reports from the circuit and more content. The link for that Patreon is in our video description. If you want to do a one-time donation, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link as well. Get your name on the board and invest as much as you want, as Edward, hi Ed, Amber and Zachary already have done so as well. You can even buy a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee and they will thank you on the air, but I will not drink the coffee if it's 20 to midnight as well. I'll save that for a morning pick-me-up as well. Now, for Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish for putting up with me tonight, thank you very much. I'm Joshua Burch. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Help us get to 500 subscribers before the Daytona 500. 2023 is going to be a really fun season. We want you to be part of it. All our live programs, plus special programs such as Roundtable and Life on the Grid. Click on the links to see some of our great videos right here on the Grid Network.